Welcome into another episode of Hog Roundup with Jacob Morris. That is Trey Dare. Trey, we are doing it in person a little bit. No,
honored to be here.
Yeah,
honored to be a part of the program.
Usually Ty and I are kind of like we're staring at a webcam, all the above. This will be a little bit more personal.
One of the best thing going on the internet right now, which that's saying something.
I don't know
it's
about
on the
all
internet,
that.
it's on there forever.
Yeah, exactly. It lives forever. What we're going to do today is pretty darn simple. We're going to look at the season ahead. We're going to preview the season ahead, and we are going to start on offense. Media, we don't get to see much. We've talked about that a lot in fall camp, right? A little bit of independent drill work, all the above. But on offense, we'll start here. Who has stood out to you in terms of you can take any different position group, all the above? Who has stood out to you in fall camp? Who do you expect to have a big season?
Well, Taylon Green is the most obvious answer, right? Just his presence and whatnot, and you really expect him to take another step forward with his development, especially if he's going to be healthy. Then the most talked about player has been Mike Washington. Sam Pittman can't get 10 words out of his mouth without saying the word Mike Washington. But for me, I'm really impressed by Omega Blake. He's pretty striking to the eye. It looks like he's got that NFL-type body. He's got the kind of body where he can play any position at receiver, at least from what I'm seeing in practice. So, hey, you need to be a possession guy. He can do it. You want him on the boundary, outside the numbers, going up, using his body, getting the ball. He can do it. You want him as a slot guy. Somebody maybe in space can make people miss. So far, so good. It looks good to the eye. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's even got the connection to Taylon Green. I love his age. I believe it's his 5th year in college football. So Omega Blake, to me, very, very impressive. And quite frankly, really all the receivers. Last year, maybe a little touch and go at times. They moved the ball well. They just couldn't quite finish drives. But I like what they've done in kind of upgrading and filling out the position there. Omega Blake, Raylan Sharp. We'll see what they have in Cam Shanks. And even also, Antonio Jordan, the true freshman, big-time reviews. It's hard nowadays for true freshmen to get on the field, make an impact right away in college football, especially in the SEC. But it seems like he's capable of doing that, man. This kid's a highlight waiting to happen.
I thought it was interesting. Sam seemed to temper expectations on Saturday a little bit with Antonio. He got asked and he said, hey, it's with true freshmen, it's just part of getting the playbook, all the above. I think it's going to be hard for him to really step in and have a massive role just given the true freshman aspect you mentioned there. But I like the fact that you went to the receivers from the standpoint that this is a group that it's hard to know, right? We think we know Omega Blake and Raylan Sharp are going to be producers, but it's hard really to grasp what this group's going to look like, and they're so different from the group that Arkansas had last year. Tyrone Broden was 6'7". Andrew Armstrong, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", Isaac Teslaw as well, all through that entire group. It's a different looking wide receiver group. You hear the right things, but everybody says depth is great at every single position. You talked about Mike Washington. He is the guy that has seemed to just blow every single coach, player away, all the above.
Killed it in the weight room.
Yeah.
Putting up some crazy numbers in summer workouts.
Yeah, came in and he won the points competition that the team had between, competing position groups, all of the above. And we've heard big play time and time again. And that's something where you didn't really see that in New Mexico State. He made 4 starts. It was kind of a tandem backfield. And he had a 91-yard touchdown in the scrimmage on Saturday, 50-plus before that, 50-plus in the first tackle to the ground, pads on, practice the Razorbacks had as well. And, you hear coaches always say, listen, depth is a strength at every single position group. They're going to tell you that in fall camp. Not every group can be as deep as possible. But running back is interesting from the standpoint that I think they know what they have in Mike Washington, but they do feel good about Braylon Russell. They do feel good about Rodney Hill as guys that can be change-of-pace backs, give different looks. And if you add that aspect to what you already think you have on the outside, what you know you have with Taylon Green, that can help the offense produce the running back.
Yeah, it's Sam Pittman at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, if those of you out there that heard it. And Pittman, obviously a great way with words, talking about Mike Washington. He was like, it's a good thing he's running away from people. You're like, damn, that is impressive. Look at that kid go. And then you're like, well, is it a bad thing that our defense can't quite keep up with the guy? Hey, who knows? 6 in one, a half a dozen in the other. The defense has its own things to worry about. But, yeah, man, this Mike Washington kid, absolutely killing it. It seems like they really found a diamond in the rough. Now, why weren't the numbers more eye-popping in New Mexico State? I don't know. Certain players develop in different ways, and that's on a coaching staff and evaluators to figure out exactly what they have and bring people here and fitting them into the system. But the reviews on him right now are absolutely incredible. So really excited to see what they got. And quite frankly, Jacob, I don't think we're going to know what they have probably until week 2, maybe even week 3. A year ago, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, that was nothing. It would have been
scored every possession.
The red and white game would have been, far more entertaining than what that thing ended up being. So I think against Alabama A&M, probably not going to know what we have in Arkansas. But I think Arkansas State, even if they win in a blowout, I think in hindsight, you'll be able to look back and be like, oh, there were cracks in the armor there. You know, how we saw some things where they couldn't get off the field in some spots defensively, or they couldn't finish drives offensively. So I really think that Arkansas State game certainly going to be the first big litmus test, which I like. I think that's good. And Sam Pittman would never say this. He's going to take every opponent seriously. But I think he likes it too. Let's say, there's no preseason in college football, kind of acts as a preseason game. You don't want to be like LSU, you're playing Clemson week 1. Texas playing Ohio State. Hey, that's great for the fan base. That's great for the tailgate. That's great for StubHub. Not so good whenever you lose a game like that and you're playing catch up right out of the gate.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to see once it comes to Ole Miss, then Memphis, and then Notre Dame what this offense really looks like. Quickly, impressions of the offensive line. I know you talked when you went into practice, you said size is the first thing that stands out. I mean, it is off the charts when you look at this team. Size isn't everything, looks isn't everything, but they do look like an SEC offensive line.
Yet size-wise, absolutely, they do look tremendous. I mean, it is striking whenever they're bigger than an NFL line. Shaq McCroy, Corey Robinson, these guys have some big bodies. Really impressed by Fernando Carmona, saying the right things.
Yeah.
Now at guard, kicked into a more natural, traditional position for his body. But hearing him talk over the weekend, he says, hey, we're way ahead of where we were a year ago. And again, you look at the numbers, they put up yards. It was just, they had experience, but you wonder if there's some seasoning under Bobby Petrino. That's what's going to get them in the red area whenever things, the game can tighten up a little bit. That's where they're going to finish some drives. So Carmona is a leader there on that offensive line, and they're throwing him out there like, hey, this is the face of the offensive line kind of thing. He's really saying the right things. I think he's carrying the weight for that group. And him also at guard, that's a good thing. Him at tackle last year, yeah, he was able to do it, able to hold up, but being played out of position. So love what I'm hearing from him. Hopefully whenever they put it to the field, they're doing the right things.
Yeah, a couple other position battles to sort out offensive line-wise for the Razorbacks there. The other one to really that's rave reviews is Caden Kittler, the transfer center, in terms of hearing all the right things, in terms of making checks, all the above. It's like having a second quarterback on the field. Talon has been raving about him. We are going to switch over and talk defense, but first, a quick break and a message from our sponsors. All right, back on the Hog Roundup. Trey Dare, Jacob Morris with you. Trey, we talked offense. Let's flip over into the same exact thing defense-wise. Arkansas has question marks all over the board. Sam Pittman was honest, and after the season, in spring as well, we need defensive line help. We need secondary help. They addressed both in the transfer portal. 2 most impressive takeaways of the unit so far.
Well, the secondary's big. We'll see how the speed is going to translate. Maybe they can use some of that length. I like what I see out of Julian Neal, Kenai Walker, the way these guys are carrying themselves. Larry Worth, too, who has the experience. He's more invested in the brand. They're really old there. So maybe if you do lack in high-end talent, I want guys who are experienced. I want guys who are thinking on their feet. They can play with their mind just as much as they can with their arms and legs. Now, I'm a little concerned about the defensive line. It's kind of a no-name group.
Yeah.
Cam Ball is outstanding, probably going to get drafted, almost certainly going to get it. If he doesn't get drafted, he's going to get a very real look at having an NFL career. He has that kind of body. He has that kind of talent. But beyond that, it's kind of a no-name group. We really don't know what they have. And I think listening to the coaching staff, you got to read between the lines with these things. They're comfortable with their first rotation. But what happens whenever injuries hit? And again, speaking parenthetically, that's what I gather, what they're trying to say. Like, we know what we have on first team. We're comfortable there. But winning in this league is more about what do you have 6 deep, your top 8 guys in that rotation. Because you're leaning on them a lot. There's some really hot days. Guys really wore down. There are going to be some injuries. How do they keep up against some of the true big boys in this conference? Which you look at that schedule, and it is brutal. It's hard to imagine a team in the SEC playing a harder schedule than what Arkansas has got. Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee, Texas, all on the road. So hey, again, glass half full here on Big Drill Nation. They're not going to have to deal with kind of the noise. Communication going to be on point there, playing games on the road defensively.
It's going to have to be. I think you're exactly right, just in terms of defensive line. There were secondary questions somewhat in terms of, hey, a lot of big plays in the first scrimmage, whatever it might be. But, listening to Travis Williams talk, you put it well. You kind of have to read between the lines, right? And he got asked, what is the strength of your defense? And he said, the linebackers And the secondary.
Not the depth. He did not say
exactly.
The
And so, and he talked when he was asked about the defensive line. Speaking of reading between the lines, he mentioned the defensive line. Hey, David Oakey's out for a couple weeks. We got to find depth. We got to find the rotation that works for us. And he was asked, hey, who are some of the young guys that are catching your eye and stepping up? And he went, all of them. To me, that's never good.
Kind of a cop-out.
So,
right? We don't want to speak for him, but you're right.
And so you never know, right? Maybe all of those guys come up and they flash and all the above. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad defensive line. It just means that right now this team doesn't know what that defensive line is going to look like. And when you bring in that back end, all of this transfer additions to the secondary, Julian Neal, Kenai Walker, Shakur Smalls, you go down the list, all of these different guys, you do worry about how do these guys gel and play together, especially when Smalls, as well as Trent Whalen, as well as Julian Neal were spring additions as well. You worry about communication issues as well. Not so much worried about that in terms of what Travis Williams said, but it is going to be interesting to see how this group looks. And to the point of the offense, maybe you don't really know until week 3 in Oxford.
Well, and that's why I like, as I mentioned there, I like the age factor. Give me guys who are experienced. If hopefully whatever you lack athletically, you can make up for with some more institutional knowledge, having some smart players, guys that aren't going to make mistakes that beat themselves, because communication errors on defense, that's what gives up the big play. So that was a concern to me coming out of that scrimmage. That the first team defense did give up a touchdown to the second team offense. It's going to happen every now and again. It is football. We're going to see, week 0 coming up, week 1. These bum teams are going to play really good teams, and there's going to be a busted coverage. Somebody's going to break a tackle, and Alabama A&M is up on Tennessee for about 5 minutes, and then, the attrition and kind of water finds its level the rest of the way. But stuff like that does happen. And then, interestingly enough, on that drive, Sam Pittman kind of blamed, some of the communication type things there, that penalties, some of the more controllables as to why they got hit for it. So it should be interesting. I think they can win games though, Jacob, being an offensive heavy team. Similar to like what Ole Miss does. It's, we're good. Tennessee too. A lot of the times under Josh Heupel, we're going to lean on the offense, and I think they do have an offense. I feel comfortable in saying this. They're probably going to score 28, 30 points against most teams they play. So then it comes down to how many plays can you make defensively? Can they win the turnover margin?
Yeah.
Can they get off the field when they absolutely have to? This is not going to be a defense, I don't think, I hope I'm wrong, it's going to be holding teams week in, week out to around 17, 20 points a game. I don't think it's that kind of group. But quite frankly, college football is no longer that kind of sport.
Yeah. The tough part about that is if you're talking about how do we get to 8, 9 games, right, the sustainable way to do that is not to win shootouts, right? And so I think that's where if you're an Arkansas fan, you might say, really? Like that's how we're going to have to win games, scoring 30, 40 points? We don't know, quite frankly, until we get a good look at this defense. But without a strong pass rush, which I don't think that they have right now, suspect secondary, maybe they feel really, really good about the linebacking core. That may be what you're staring down in terms of winning games.
Yeah, if you want to be aggressive, they got to find something there in that pass rush. Even if you're getting beat, you are getting tuned up a little bit yardage-wise. If they can generate some pressure, that's going to lead to turnovers. So can they force these teams into mistakes? I just don't know if they have it on that defensive line. And also, again, immediately right out of camp, some of that depth is being tested. You mentioned Okie, Cam Ball missed about a week or so.
Sorry with a hamstring.
So, the injuries are right there in that front seven. It has to be a cause for concern because injuries are always going to happen. We keep on mentioning college football's changed. It's even Alabama and Georgia. They don't have, that front line too deep filled with future NFL prospects like they used to because of the transfer portal, because of the NIL. But how good is your depth? That's where games are won and lost whenever you have to rely on somebody as a backup and you win. Going back to the offensive side of the ball last year against Tennessee, Malachi Singleton, he didn't light the world on fire, but he did score a touchdown. He made the play whenever he had to make it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the depth. Xavier Sori is a great example of that, right? A guy that he was 34th overall recruit, comes to Arkansas because he's looking for playing opportunities. Georgia can't stack that depth in terms of the linebacking core, whatever it might be. Hey, quickly before we hit a break, special teams. Scott Starzik, true freshman. You confident in the kicker?
He's a freshman. I don't want to rely on a freshman, but it seems to be
You're gonna have to.
more confident than what they had a year ago.
Yeah.
The confidence in the kicking game just was not.
Was
the Oklahoma State game?
It was the Oklahoma State game. It was bad.
A 4th and medium at
Fourth
like
and
the 25-yard line.
They went for it.
Felt like a field goal would have really put you in a better position, to win the game. So that kind of came up all year long. I want to say they were around like 70% field goal wise last year.
There,
I don't have the numbers in front of me. That's not good enough. In the college game, I don't care if it's Arkansas, Alabama, A&M, whatever. You have a 35, 40-yard field goal. You should be very comfortable that you're going to make that kick. And Arkansas didn't have that last year. It seems like they have it this year. I love what Pittman's saying. We put the kid in some tough spots in training camp, and he made the kicks. Had a 55-yarder at the scrimmage on Saturday. So, good signs, good returns. Apparently, this kid could have went just about anywhere in the country, and he's here. Yeah. He's at Arkansas, so good on Pittman for getting him here.
Yeah, number 1 or number 2 overall kicker, depending on where you look. They had him kicking in front of the chancellor. Said add a little pressure.
Is the chancellor paying his bills? I thought the money didn't come directly from the university, but I don't know. He put some cash in the kid's pocket. He'll probably that's some heat.
Yeah.
Anybody can play for money, but they can't play when it's their money. So let's see if we're taking out of his pocket then. What kind of kicks he's going to be making.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been fascinating to listen to the way you are trying to get a true freshman ready for all of a sudden you're playing in front of 100,000 people. You got to make a kick with the game on the line. And they've talked about in camp, they just lug the team out. Touchdown, 3 different field goals. We're going to place the ball down on the field. You have no idea where it is. Go ahead and kick it. You mentioned the 55-yarder he hit. They say, the coaching staff say he reminds them a lot of Cam Little. That's high praise. It's a high bar to live up to as well. But
does Cam Little hit a 65-yarder in the NFL this year?
Yes.
You think that? So they give him the green light, right?
So here's the deal. You saw that kick. Like he had 3-4 yards on that 70. Why not? I mean, unless it's the type of thing where you're saying, man, I don't want to risk position, whatever it might be. Why would you not let him kick 60, 65 yards?
I think he's proven it. Yeah. He bombed one in from 70 yards. So, yeah, if they're in a spot, 65 yards, maybe not, field position's always a question.
If the game's on the line, though,
late,
kick it. Why not? Don't throw a Hail Mary.
Totally, yeah. Final play of the game, we could get it to overtime or maybe win it. Absolutely. It's probably a better bet than a Hail Mary. And he's earned that right. He's proved he can do it.
I'm worried he's going to get jinxed. They put the graphic up. He's never missed an extra point. 100% high school, college, NFL. So he's going to miss 1 week.
High school, if you're in college nowadays, you miss an extra point, it's more your fault. It's got to get blocked or a bad snap, something like that. It's you and I can get out there and do that.
I'm not going to say that.
But you stand on the. I think I made this comment recently to you. You stand on that 20, 25-yard line. It is unbelievable how far away those goalposts look and how easy my man Scott Starzik and Cam Little can make those kicks.
Yeah, Scott Starzik, true freshman. That's going to be the kicker for the Razorbacks in all likelihood. Going to be interesting to see how he handles all that. We're going to hit one more break here on the Hog Roundup. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the vaunted schedule as well as
you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
From Trey Dare right here.
Favorite segment of the week.
One more quick break. We'll be back after this. And back and wrapping up shop on the Hog Roundup. Trey Dare and Jacob Moritz with you. Trey, quickly, I think we'd be remiss if you're talking about this season. It finishes with the schedule. You look down the list. It's Notre Dame in the non-con. It's Memphis on the road in non-con. You open on the road at Ole Miss for SEC play. You got road games at Tennessee, Texas, LSU as well. This schedule is brutal. It could get worse if Auburn's good. It could get worse if Mississippi State is passable. I guess it could go the opposite way as well if those teams are struggling. Your expectations on what is, by all regards, no matter what metric you look at, a top 5 schedule.
You ever go to Las Vegas and you see all those buildings? They don't get that big for just now. How do you think those buildings got to where they are and they got that big? So the number's 5.5.
Yeah.
I think that's a great, reasonable number. Certainly here in the Big Trail Nation, great state of Arkansas, we want them to exceed that number. 6-6 may be hard for Pittman to survive unless it looks pretty good. Sometimes it's not as simple as you are what your record are. That there are other variables in play, like funding, like injuries, like how competitive were your games, all that stuff. But realistically, I do think it's going to be 7-5. I think the ceiling for this team is 8-4, just given how difficult that road schedule is. It's hard to find a road win in the SEC. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
But to me, the season begins at Memphis. Should be 2-0. If they lose to Ole Miss, all right, you kind of saw that one coming. Preseason top 25 team. Lane Kiffin has that program in a really good spot. You better beat Memphis. So 3-1, come here for Notre Dame. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough opening to this season. I think you make the point, though, right? It's sometimes you are not what your record says you are. And I think that's quite often the case in college football more so than really any other sport, just because of the inequality between conferences. And then to this point, inequality between schedules within a conference as well. So I'm with you in terms of where the kind of ceiling floor for this team is. And you make the point on injuries, right? If Taylor Green goes down, that makes the season go remarkably different different than it would otherwise. It's going to depend how this team looks in big games, because it might be a team that goes 7-5, but if you shock a couple teams along the way and you're competitive in every single game, you have to give the fan base credit. There is more room for nuance here than just a number.
Well, and aside from the Ole Miss game last year, this team was really competitive, but
that's not enough.
There's a difference between competing and winning. You know, you see it in the NFL all the time. Even the worst teams in the league can get to the final 10 minutes, 8 minutes of the game, and it's like, hey, here's our path to winning. That was kind of Arkansas last year, closing the deal. A little different thing. All right.
Yeah, I'm going to tee you up on this. So, all right, college football news, whatever it might be. We've been waiting years for the vaunted Connor Stalions hammer to come down from the NCAA. To nobody's surprise, when it comes to Michigan, the NCAA they tapped him with a little $20 million fine, could go up to $35 million. So I'm just going to get out of your way. You just give us your hot take on what you think that means for college football moving forward.
So $20 million could be up to $35 million. And that's about the best in the NCAA, who's completely powerless. Charlie Baker, my man.
No postseason ban, nothing.
There's really nothing they can do anymore. You know, they're talking about regulating some of the NIL stuff. I don't know how in the world they're going to do that, but God love them, and they're going to try it. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. And this is a generational thing here with what we have. We've grown to accept this culture where morals are just not the same anymore, and it's only cheating if you get caught. But dare I even say, what is cheating? You know, does anybody care? I remember Darren McFadden running around in the Crown Vic. You ever seen those pictures? No. Nobody talks about that. You know what we talk about? We talk about him against South Carolina. We talk about what he did against Tennessee. We talk about Arkansas beating LSU. We talk about Darren McFadden as one of 2 people ever to finish as runner-up at the Heisman Trophy, along with Andrew Luck. I bet Darren McFadden was doing pretty well under the table at Arkansas.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So to me, our Arkansas fans out there, listen up. This is important. Are you really going to care if Arkansas goes 10-2, gets to the college playoff, wins a game, and you find out a couple years later that they overpaid for the players or that they were circumventing the rules? What do you think?
I don't think they will. I also think that's a very slippery slope to go down.
The moral police do not care.
Crazy takeaway from the Michigan.
Michigan, if we take down the banner or we take the wins off Wikipedia, do Michigan fans care? Or did 2022 or 2023 actually happen?
Sure, I just think you're setting a bit of a dangerous
precedent. How about the Fab
there.
Five? You think they care?
No, I don't think they care on that.
Memphis, Derrick Rose, John Calipari, Coach Cal, right here now in this wonderful program in Arkansas. Got a beautiful home. Johnny Tyson.
Do you draw the line
Dude's
anywhere?
living life. You think Memphis cares?
Do you draw the line anywhere? That's all I'm asking. Like, it's like, for example, this.
I draw the line at SMU whenever they were told 9 times to stop it and they didn't knock it off.
Okay, because talent acquisition is one thing, but stealing signals, plays, all the above. I mean, everybody does that to a degree.
You're allowed to do it.
In terms of, right?
But you weren't allowed to send people there in a disguise and in a mustache and clown nose there
with
try to figure it out. That's what you weren't allowed to do.
That's what I'm saying. You draw the line there, or is that fine as well? We should be encouraging that.
No. I'm not encouraging. But again, this is a generational thing. It used to be, well, hey, that's morally wrong. You shouldn't do it. Now, we've created this culture, and this is in life. I don't know if it's social media thing, the millennial thing, Gen Z thing, whatever. As I've been told, we have less than a minute to go here. We've created this culture where it's only cheating if you get caught. Now, look, morally, that's wrong.
It is.
But that's where it is. Again, Arkansas out there. Do you really care if a couple people come generate, 40, 50 million in fundraising and you're paying players and you got the best players in the country on that football field and they're going out and we're calling the Hogs and we're banged out at 75,000 a game and we're going to the Rose Bowl and we're in playoff games? It's awesome. It's going to be awesome. So to me, I say, hey, Arkansas, if you want to cheat and you can win, go for it.
I think there's a little more nuance to it, but you hear it from Trey Dare there. We're going to end it there. That's
don't
the perfect
get caught.
place
don't
to
get
do
caught.
it. Trey Dare,
it's what I'm going to tell my kids. Just don't get caught, guys.
What a lesson. Signing off. We'll talk to you next week.